have an autistic nonverbal daughter.
다음 게임에서는 와인은 이 칼 가지고 숙소로 돌아가.
Squid Game is mostly a masterpiece, and if you've been on the internet all the past few years, then you definitely do not need me to recap the show to you. But if you're some kind of cave freak who's just been defrauded and given an iPad, let me put you on. Squid Game is a Korean drama series that follows people suffering on the lower economic side of society. We are shown these variety of struggles through the show's side characters, who include a gangster whose debt has now put his life at risk, a disgraced genius CEO who's ruined his company, his life, and his family's, a lady who was able to escape North Korea with her little brother, but lost her parents in the process, so that just leaves her to support them both. And also a crypto bro, who honestly kinda deserves to be in there.
Save the kids token. Save the kids token.
An obvious core theme of Squid Game is capitalism, and I think the show does a very good job of showing how so many different people from so many different walks of life and backgrounds and everything are all struggling from the same thing. For as different as everyone is in this show, their problems genuinely do just boil down to, I need money or I will not be able to live the life I want.
Just give me money!
Which is just insanely relatable, and it's probably why the show took off at the speed that it did when it released in 2020. Like, I feel like for everyone there was at least one character that they could latch on to and relate to their struggles. Which leads me on to the main character of the story, Song Gi-hun, who is a loser. Yeah, Gi-hun is just kind of a shit guy. Like, this is his introduction, right? It's his daughter's birthday, but he's pissed all his money away, so he goes to his mum and he asks his mum, Mum, can you lend me some money so I can buy my daughter some birthday chicken? But would you lend this guy money? No! So neither does she. So you know what he does? He steals her bank card, pulls out some dosh, gets some of that boss man Jack energy in both ways, then gets beat up by a loan shark he owes money to, then asks for more money from said loan shark. Then he recruits some kid to win a fucking toy for his daughter's birthday, and he didn't even get her any chicken. This guy is a fucking loser, and I love him. For the first 15 minutes of the show, we have seen him be an absolute shit. But you feel for him, life's hard, and we're all looking for a shortcut at the bottom. The escape from poverty is the one motivate that we all share, so when he finally wins, you feel for him. And when he learns that his daughter is moving to America with his ex-wife and her new husband, you feel devastated for him. In just 30 minutes, the show has shown us every side to Gi-hun. The loser, the everyman, the father, and we see how all these sides are tearing at each other. In such a short time period, you see the man that he is, but more importantly, you see the man that he could be. After his daughter is picked up by her mum, Gi-hun wanders the streets of Seoul and heads to the subway station to get home. While he waits for the subway car to arrive, a kind-looking, totally wholesome core stranger approaches him and asks him to play the kids' game Daki with him. Initially, Gi-hun is a bit confused and put off that this grown-ass man is asking to play a kids' game with him, but the kind-looking stranger offers Gi-hun a deal, with Gi-hun getting 100,000 won if he wins, and the kind man getting to... After finally winning, Gi-hun is given the 100,000 won, as well as a strange card with a phone number on the back. He's told to call it if he wants to earn more money. Which, if you couldn't guess by the show having more than one episode, he does, where he then gets abducted and then wakes up in a large room with hundreds of other people. All of them wearing identical uniforms, with the only thing separating each person is the number on their chest and on their back. After getting his bearings and seeing the girl who robbed him get battered, a group of guards come in and explain to Gi-hun that every person in this room is just like him. He's shown a collage of other people's Daki games as their debt is read out on screen, and just like him, they're all crippled by a debt that they could never repay. The fiery anxiety and anger that lit up the room when Gi-hun woke up is gone. It's now a sickly cold, as they're all shamed by the guards, stating that their free will, their choices, was what landed them in debt. But right now, it is up to their free will and it is their choice to play these upcoming games and win 45 billion won. With the money literally dangling over their heads, who wouldn't say yes, regardless of shame? So they all exit the room and follow the guards to this massive open space that's been painted to look like the outside, and at the very end of the room is a gigantic animatronic of a little girl. The guards say nothing, but an announcer chimes in and explains that they had to play the children's game of red light, green light and make it to the other side of the room before the timer reaches 0. Before the game starts, they are told that when the doll has its back turned and is singing that it is safe to move, but once the doll stops singing and turns around, then they must stay perfectly still or risk elimination. Which is very simple, but as the game begins and players do eventually get caught. Yeah, so that's the show as a whole. This mixed bag of very flawed and evil people must survive a gauntlet of deadly kids games in order to win enough money to live on the outside world. It's an amazing series that shows every dirty angle of the rat race that we're all born into. If you haven't seen the show, then definitely go watch it. I grazed over and paraphrased a lot, so go watch the show. The pacing is great, it'll hook you straight away. It's a modern masterpiece. Now, after you've finished this show, just like me, you probably wondered, besides being in a MrBeast video, what is the best way to experience and simulate the Squid Games?
Press large chocolate milkshake.
So I'm going to take you through a few fan and official Squid Game video games in order to determine which one of them offers the best, most authentic Squid Game experience. Starting with Roblox, more specifically the fan-created Ink games. I know there's a lot of Squid Game games on Roblox, god that's going to get annoying to say, but this one went on the most viral on TikTok recently, so this is the game that I have chosen. When you load up Ink Game for the first time, you'll be immediately overstimulated. The game's UI, the children arguing in chat, flashing lights, and lastly the game asking you to buy Robux. No wonder kids have such burnt out attention spans. Fucking hell. After taking a minute to breathe and adapt into the state of the average iPad kid, you can see that Games I think did a great job recreating the dormitory from the show. Like, it's no Unreal Engine 5, but for a Roblox game, this looks good. And so do all the intro animations that some of the games have. Immediately, this is really impressive. As you're looking around the dormitory, you might notice the shopping trolley icon on the left. This is where you can spend either one that you've accumulated throughout your time on the games, or Robux where you've accumulated through debt. You can spend either currency on character upgrades like speed, strength, and money earned, or you can roll for superpowers. Honestly, I just ignored these when I was getting footage for this video. It's not like Gi-hun got one for all midway through the Squid Game, so I'm just bringing them up now in case you see anyone doing like the flash step or like the gum gum pistol. Just ignore it. It's just definitely something that the developers added for fun. Outside of this menu, the main thing that we can do is just push people, which is pretty fun. After a short wait, the frontman will come in and explain the premise of the Squid Games, Ink Games to you. And I don't know if this is the standard quality for a Roblox game or not, I've never played any before, but again, this is really impressive. You can tell Games, I think, put a lot of effort into this, and light spoilers, but that level of effort spreads to the entire game as a whole. After being told where poor, we're escorted to the first of the games, and just like in the show, the Squid Games begin with red light, green light. In this game, you and the 69 other players must cross through this large open room and reach the other side in under 3 minutes. Which is simple, but it gets a little bit more complicated, as you can only move when the doll on the other side of the room is not facing you. If you're too far away, however, you might not be able to see which way the doll is facing, but thankfully for you, she'll be singing the children's song, The Mug Un Hua Flower Has Bloomed. But when she stops singing, you'll have a second to stop yourself, as if you're caught moving when the doll's facing you, you'll be blasted from every machine gun dotted around the room. But thankfully, you can make around 1 or 2 mistakes before dying, with the first shot only injuring you, which also isn't good, as it reduces your movement speed to a crawl. So if you get shot at the start, then you are not reaching that finish line, unless someone's got a bit of altruism, which I'll talk about more in a second. I should say too, just because you are stood still does not mean that you are safe, as other players can kill you by pocketing sand and throwing it in your face to knock you over, or alternatively have spent Robux, never pronounce that, to unlock the super push. Which if someone's targeting you and they have that, I'm sorry, you're not winning. You're not getting past that finish line, they will just bully you. So both of these can lead to you losing the first game quite quickly, but if you get hurt or are feeling a little altruistic yourself, you can team up with another player. and lean on each other, allowing you both to move at full speed, eliminating the time crunch that comes with being injured. Either by playing selfishly or selflessly, you make it to the finish line and progress to the second game, Dalgona. Just like with the show, this game is pretty simple. Each player will be given a cookie with a unique shape at the center of it, with the task of cutting out said unique shape under a time limit. Unlike with the show, however, in-games actually has 6 uniquely shaped cookies, with each ranging in difficulty, the easiest being the circle and the triangle cookies. These simple shapes do honestly guarantee a pass. Like, I'm sorry, if you can't cut out a circle or a triangle, what are you doing? How can't you do that? Have you got the shakes? Are you playing this mid-roller coaster? What is going on? Why can't you do that? Why? Then moving on to the more medium difficulty cookie with the star. You'll notice as the cookies get more difficult, they usually have more corners and turns for you to maneuver the cursor around. This brings me on to the next cookie, which was by far the hardest from the actual show, that being the umbrella. This cookie was the one that Gi Hun, the main character of the show, actually ended up with. And it was actually so difficult that the only way that he could proceed to the next round and not die was by dissolving the shape's outline with his spit. But unfortunately, our character in Ink Game is on an unstoppable mewing spree. So our only option is either to raw dog it with pure skill or spend 1,000,000,000 won or more bucks on a permanent layer upgrade, which makes the first 4 cookies I've just discussed a lot easier. But it is honestly kind of a requirement for the Ink Game's 2 original cookies. Sackboy from Little Big Planet for some reason, and the Mona Lisa from Gi Hun's Nightmare in Season 2 of the show. If you do not have the lighter, and you only have like 2 minutes to carve these things out, oh my god, you either better just enter some diabetic flow state or just leave. Be it luck or skill, you have successfully carved out your cookie shape and beat the second round of the games. But before progressing to the third game, you'll wait with the other surviving players in the dormitory and then be given a choice of food. Either a kimbap or a rice ball and a soda. The foods themselves aren't really that important, with them just giving a little bit of a HP regen. Same goes with the little bit of cookie you kept from Dalgona. But what you use to eat the foods will be vital going forward, as the next stage of the Ink Games is like that. I know it's not a proper part of the games, like there was no kids games where you just turn the lights out and beat the shit out of each other, but it's still a really cool inclusion from the show. Here, just like within the show, the dormitory's lights and security cameras are turned off, with you and every other player being given the options of fork or bottle depending on what food you chose, allowing you the opportunity to kill another player directly or be killed yourself. This is a super intense part of the games, but it's honestly kind of funny because it's always preluded by some 1-year-old or Turkish man in chat spamming team over and over again, and then ganging up on the one person whose health drops the slightest bit into amber. If you find yourself on the wrong end of this, thankfully you can still use the push command and just launch people a mile away. Alternatively, you can go on the offensive and attack someone, bringing their health lower than yours, so then the mob will chase them instead of you. This is a pretty fun but dangerous option, as your health can just get even lower, resulting in the mob focusing you more. But you do get to see the game's really cool combat animations. And lastly, you can do my favourite strategy of hiding in the toilet. As the lights turn back on, we officially move on to the third round of the games, and up until this point, Ink Games has been a pretty faithful adaptation of Season 1 of Squid Game, but from this point on, you'll be given the option to vote between a game from either Season 1 or Seasons 2 or 3. This is a great inclusion of the voting system used in Seasons 2 and 3 of the show, as there, players will take a unanimous vote to continue or end the games. So here in this amazing digital world, no one would really vote to end it, as what would be the point? You'd just go back to dalgona or red light, green light. So allowing the players to use the votes to choose which games they do is really clever. Round 3 of the games can either be between hide and seek from Season 3 of the show or tug of war from Season 1 of the show. And I'll firstly discuss the one you're more likely to get due to no one ever voting tug of war. That being hide and seek. In hide and seek, you'll either be assigned the role of a hider or a seeker, but if you're not happy with your role and find someone else who's not happy with their role, then you can swap bibs. blue for hider, and red for seeker. But not many people actually ever want to be the hider, so it's kind of rare that you find someone who actually wants to swap. As a hider, you'll be dropped into an amazingly recreated maze from the show, and be tasked with finding the maze's exit or having to survive the 3 full minutes with all the seekers trying to kill you. But to make surviving easier for the hiders, they are given a 30-second head start and one of 3 differently shaped keys that they can use to open and lock the many doors and passages scattered around the maze. For me, being a hider was really difficult, as I'd either just get jumped at the very start or successfully hide with only 30 seconds left, and then I'd get pinged by the game, or some idiot with every fucking seeker on his tail runs to me, and then I just look like the average Londoner. And I'm back in the lobby. There are some things you can do if you get found, like you can press the left bumper in time with the seeker's attack to perform a dodge, which looks pretty sick. The animation for dodging is really cool, and following up a barrage of dodges with a push feels epic, and it is the most reliable way to escape a seeker. Of course, at that point, both are on a huge cooldown, and you sprint out, so you're just going to get found and stabbed by another seeker. And if you hide it out, you can just hold the door to like block it for a little bit, and hopefully that will just give you enough time, 5 Nights at Freddy style, to run out the timer.
Oh my god! Oh, I did it!
Moving on to the role that I believe is a lot easier than being a hider. As a seeker, you're given a knife and the objective of killing at least one hider, which is honestly pretty easy, especially considering that teaming allows you and how many other players to pass with just 1 kill. And as I previously mentioned, when the timer gets low, all hiders get pinged, revealing their exact location to you, and even if you can't kill them, you are given a bonus 30 seconds to kill a guard. If you fail this round, then it is definitely on you. Unless you fall into the spike pit in the center of the room and then have to buy Robux, even though you promised yourself that you wouldn't. Yeah. Before progressing to round 4 of the games, we gotta go back to Tug of War.
My girlfriend started an OnlyFans account, which is a website where you can upload amateur porn.
This is the other option available to you in the votes, which I'm only going to show limited gameplay of because I only got this once out of the dozen matches I played of the Ink games. Here, all the players are split into 2 teams and have to compete in the least toxic game of Dead by Daylight to survive. There's honestly not really much to say about this one. It's pretty simple, but honestly, it's so intense seeing your team get pulled closer and closer to that edge, just for you all to like lock in and just yank that shit back and pull and pull and pull. It's tug of war. It lives up to the name. It is tug of war. It lives up to the name. You are constantly going backwards and forwards. So intense. It is really fun. Again, I only played 1 game of it, but it was actually so fun and one of my favorite games of the Ink games, to be honest with you. After being either tug of war or hide and seek, you'll move on to the next round of voting. This time your options are either glass bridge from season 1 of the show or jump rope from season 3 of the show. Unlike with tug of war and hide and seek, I feel like people's opinions towards these games are pretty 50-50. Like, I never felt like I got one more than the other, which is definitely something I can say about the last round of the games that, again, I never got tug of war. I got it like once. I got tug of war once. Anyway, sorry, let's move on to the first choice of the 2, that being Glass Bridge, which is a game that is stupidly easy and simultaneously unfairly hard. This game is a simple jump across the glass bridge and reach the other side. Sounds easy, but every row of panels on this bridge has at least one that's fake, transforming every jump into a coin flip of life or death. But if there's hardly any players left, then the number of fake panels goes from half to a fraction, meaning only a few of the panels will actually be fake, making it a lot easier to jump across the bridge. Unless you're someone like me who sucks at platformers. I don't know what it is. I'm not good at platformers. Probably why I don't like Hollow Knight. I miss every time. I miss the jump every time, and I just die normally. I've actually never failed. I've never died to a fake glass. I have always just missed the jump. So if you're like me and you suck at platformers, your only other option is jump rope. In jump rope, you and the rest of the players must cross a runway hoisted 100 feet up into the air, all while avoiding the rope that's trying to knock you off the platform. This sounds pretty easy, and it mostly is. All you have to do is just jump in time with the rope, but every few steps you'll lose your balance and be given a QTE to complete, or else you'll fall. Alternatively, if the pressure of pressing 2 buttons is too much for you, then you can approach another player and ask them to carry you across the finish line. Or kill you at the very beginning, it's up to you bro, it's a 50-50 chance. Completing either of these games will move you on to the penultimate game, Mingle. Here, you and the remaining players are placed onto a platform where the song Round and Round plays as you are all spun round and round. Once the music stops, however, a number will appear at the top of your screen. Now, you and however many other players must enter a room, and the amount of you in the room must correlate to the number at the top of the screen. If not, you're all dead. If there's one too many or one too short, you're all dead. Mingle in the show was one of the best games. Its soundtrack and frantic camera movements really drove up the intensity to that next level. As you watch your favourite characters scramble to find the right amount of people and then desperately look for an available room. I know I'm talking about the show again, sorry, but Mingle was a genius idea on the creator's part. As you know, if the total number of players left is 10 and people must split up into groups of 4, then at least 2 fuckers are dying. It's a brutal moment in the show, and in-games replicates it very well. Especially when you are in a situation when you have an extra person in the room with you, as then you can perform a QTE strangle move. That's an almost identical copy of In Ho's move from season 2 of the show, where he, just like the player character on Roblox, is stuck in a room with one too many people, so he's got to choke him out, and that is a brutal moment in the show. It's choreographed really well, and I'm repeating myself, but it's impressive how Games, I think, was able to copy these like brutal movements onto a Roblox character.
Stop it, please! I beg you!
Overall, Mingle is a really fun game, but maybe not the best choice for the penultimate game, which is something I'll talk about later. But for now, we are sent back to the dormitory, but instead of the teal tracksuits that we're so accustomed to, everyone is dressed up in fancy dress suits.
私は Wonder of You.
If you've seen the show, you know what comes next. You're once again given a meal, but instead of a packed lunch, this time it's a fancy feast, where you're told only 2 of you are needed for the final game. This is essentially Lights Out Part 2, except this time you have to kill at least 1 person. And there's also this invisible barrier pushing people to the centre of the room, so the strategy of running away and running out the time won't really work here. I could also make a Fortnite joke right now, but those for later. However it happened, there are now 2 players remaining, and you'll both be escorted to the final game, the Squid Game. So, in the show and in real life, the Squid Game divides players up into 2 separate teams, attackers and defenders. The defenders must stop the attackers from reaching the tip of the squid, while the attackers must pass the defenders and reach the tip of the squid. But the attackers start with a huge disadvantage, as the attackers must hop around on one leg until they have made a half loop around the squid's triangle section. And the defenders are also allowed to fuck with the attackers while they're hopping, so yeah, really big disadvantage. So attacking seems like the easier role, but it requires more setup, while defending, you just gotta basically just push people. By the way, I'm a white man, so that might all be completely wrong. Please do not trust me to give you Squid Game tactics. But thankfully for me and this video, Games I think have simplified the Squid Game to a simple 1v1 fight, with each player having a 3-hit combo and a lunge attack at their disposal. The lunge attack is extremely useful, providing you with invincibility frames as you lunge forward. This move is clutch and is honestly your only defensive option in the Squid Game, giving you a life-saving out whenever you get cornered by your opponent, as being outside of the squid-shaped ring for more than 3 seconds results in instant death. After trying to explain the Squid Game verbally, I understand why they simplified it down for the Roblox game. Like, could you imagine how unfair it would be if one player was at half speed just being pushed around trying to loop around the squid's head? Not to mention, how would you even convey what you're supposed to do to the attacker? Yeah, so I think it's quite understandable why they simplified it down. Plus, it's quite a lot of fun to brawl it out with your final opponent, looking for every little opening they leave you. It's really fun. The finisher animation too for beating your opponent is pretty sick as well, really well made. And same goes for this ending animation, as after you've beat your opponent, you earn all the one that you've accumulated up until this point, and then the frontman himself will put you on a boat and let you leave the island. With the final part of the cutscene being referenced to famous psychiatrist Huel Babino. So yeah, that's a pretty wholesome core ending if you ignore all the murders. But what if I told you there was another way off the island? One where not just you escape. If we go back to just after we finish Game 4, all remaining players will be given a final vote with the options of quit the game and go home or keep playing. And like any sane human being, you select go home. But just as your vote is about to win, the ballot is suddenly stuck with fake votes to continue the game. This lack of decision locks you into ending B, the Rebel ending, which is obviously based on the finale of the show's second season. Once the voting timer finishes and the game wrongfully continues, you and the rest of the players are given the option to disarm the two guards in the room with you. Doing so will result in every player being armed with an MP5, and a new objective will appear at the top of your screen. Find the frontman and escape the island. To do this, you'll have to shoot through waves of guards and journey through the facility to reach the frontman's office and forcibly end the games. This ending is very fun to do. The MP5 feels surprisingly good to shoot. The places you storm through to reach the frontman's office are spot-on recreations from the previously mentioned season finale, and the guards pose a decent challenge, being easily able to overpower your rebellion if you don't take them out as soon as they spawn in. After reaching the frontman's private room, you execute him and escape on a helicopter with the rest of the players, splitting the funds that you've accumulated up to this point between you all. The Rebel ending is so cool. Like, for as awful as the Squid Game ending is, right, with all the intro animations and that sick finisher, there is nothing that compares to the feeling of like storming through the facility, teaming up with the people who have only been trying to kill you up until this point, and then to execute the frontman like that. Oh, fucking, that shit was raw. That was really cool. It was such a good addition by Games, I think. You can tell they put a lot of thought and effort into it. And like, that sentiment also just extends to the game as a whole. Like, this game is great. It's great. It's really well made. The environments, the intro animations are all really well made. The game is very fun and really well adapted from the show, while also being unique in certain areas. It's obvious that the creators knew when to have fun and just to add shit for the sake of fun, which is always appreciated. Overall, Games, I think, did a great job condensing 3 seasons of television into a 20-minute Roblox game. Super impressive and totally understandable how they've maintained such a high player count, even though the hype of Squid Game is kind of dead and gone. Oh yeah, sorry, 2 last little things. At the very start of the game, you can opt in to play as a guard, which is kind of cool. If you've done it once, then you've done it 1,000 times. There honestly isn't really much replay value for it. You just kind of stand there as players play through the games. There's not really much to say about it. Cool addition though, because in the show, there's 2 separate storylines that show characters who've assumed the role of a guard, so it's nice to see it kind of incorporated into the game. And there's also a 3rd ending based off Season 3's finale, which for the life of me, I could not get. I'm very sorry. This is also why I think Mingle is not a good penultimate game. I think they should swap, or should have swapped, Mingle and Glass Bridge's placements, because for the final game, to get the 3rd ending, you need at least 6 players surviving, and I've already covered how well Mingle is at like slimming down the amount of players in the lobby, so it just feels like a lot of chance to have that many players survive Mingle, which is why I really think it should have been swapped with another game. Glass Bridge, for example, I think would have been better. Anyway, sorry, the last ending consists of the 6 final players playing Sky Squid Game, which from what I've seen is just another boxing match like base Squid Game, except this time it's split up into 3 rounds. In the first round, you fight as a team 3v3. Then the second round is a free-for-all between the remaining 3. Then in the final round, it's a simple 1v1. Not really much to say about this one, but it's still a cool addition. You can even grab the pole out of the middle of the platforms and use it like a weapon, just like the antagonist of Season 3 finale did. Again, I'm really sorry I didn't have any footage of this. I'm probably just going to use screenshots I can get off the wiki, or just edit some stuff around. Hopefully, fingers crossed, between recording this and editing, I might get a game of it. If not, I'm sorry. After experiencing such an amazing fan game, let's move on to a more official Squid Game product. A little known game, not many of you will have heard of it, it's pretty on the DL, Fortnite. On June 24th, 2025, Fortnite and Netflix would announce their long sought after Squid Game x Fortnite collaboration. For years, the community has wanted this, and then tack on the fact that the show's third and final season was days away. It's more than safe to say that this announcement was hype as fuck. Showing off new skins, pickaxes, and even a brand new map for Fortnite's Reload game mode. If you are not on the verge of bankruptcy and don't know what any of that is, Reload is just Fortnite on a smaller map with every player having a limited number of lives. This mode is supposed to appeal to those who feel that regular Battle Royale is too slow and want a more fast-paced experience. But then Fortnite released Blitz, which was just a better version of Reload, and now the game mode's just kinda dead. Anyway, sorry, a few days roll by and the Squid Game x Fortnite collaboration releases to the public, which turns out to be quite disappointing.
You're a fucking disappointment.
Firstly, with the release of the Squid Grounds map, Epic Games felt it appropriate to copyright strike and take down any and all Squid Game fan-made creative maps that had been released prior to the collaboration, which is so stupid on so many levels. Firstly, it puts the whole collaboration in bad light with the community, as it feels like Epic has prioritised Netflix over their own community. Secondly, these games, especially games like Octo games, which were quite popular in the community as they were just one-for-one adaptations of Squid Game but in Fortnite, were quite popular. So fans of these maps, or people who just want to play a bit of Squid Games in Fortnite, would miss out. Which brings me to my third and final point, the Reload map was shite. In the trailer they released to show off the map, they show so many cool and interesting locations themed after the show, like the red light green light area, or a stairway themed after the season 2 finale. But no, it's literally just another Reload map with a handful of pastel buildings and the rest of it being made up of 2010 cover shooter locations. So what was the point of taking down all the creative maps? It's not like they were distracting or taking away from Squid Grounds. Besides the obvious Squid Game coat of paint they both share, they have nothing in common. It was just a daft decision. Yeah, so the map half of the collab didn't really release to the best reception, and I personally found it to be a bit flat. Objection! But to completely contradict that entire artistic bitching session and give the map some slack, the one area that's actually taken from the show, the previously discussed red light green light room, is pretty cool and incorporated well into Reload's gameplay loop, as if you choose to play red light green light and make it past the doll, you'll be rewarded with rare chests, guaranteeing you some epic and legendary loot. This section is really fun and feels like an actual good collab, and I kinda wish the whole game mode was based off this one little section, having the match split up into rounds and making players play games from the actual show, and depending how well they did in this game correlates to the loot that they're given at the end of each round. Then, throughout the games, there'll be lights out sections, where the players are dropped onto a tiny Blitz-sized map that's completely made up of these pastel buildings, where they can kill each other, loot each other, or just hide till the lights out timer is over. Rinse repeat, and you've got a fun game. Personal biases aside, considering this is my idea, but this would be a lot of fun, as I feel like the Squid Game side of the game mode and the Fortnite side of the game mode would bleed into each other really well. Say there's a player who isn't inherently cracked and actually has a job, he might run into a 12-year-old. This 12-year-old has skipped school, had a Pepsi Max, and probably has an undiagnosed attention deficit disorder. So understandably, the guy with the job will avoid him and wait for the Blitz section to be over. Then, when they're back into the actual Squid Games, maybe he might target him in a game like Hide or Seek or Red Light Green Light, successfully evening the playing field between the players of low skill and high skill. It just seems like a fun little silly mode that couldn't be taken too seriously or abused by sweats. But hey, I am not a game designer. Critiquing something is a million times easier than actually making something, and what I said is probably impossible, or just a waste of resources. So the Squid Grounds map was quite disappointing, and same goes for the other half of the collab, the cosmetics. In Fortnite, when a collab happens, the main thing everyone cares about is the skins, and before it's released, people were going feral with the level of speculation. People were thinking a Gi Hun skin with an edit style for each season, a skin of the front man, a Thanos skin, a skin of the Squid Game guards with an edit style for each one of their masks that they wear. Well, the last one actually did happen, so that's a W, but the rest were quite disappointing, just being generic Fortnite people in their uniform from the show. And also, when the collab released, they did not have the front man, but they chose to have the game manager from season 2 and 3, who is literally just a palette swapped guard with less edit styles. It was just it just felt lazy, I can't lie, it just felt lazy. Not the most exciting batch of cosmetics, with the community mainly liking the guard skin for obvious reasons, and the Glass Bridge Survivor skin due to the resemblance they have to a character from the show. I should mention too that a few months later they did also add the frontman as a skin, but this is going to sound nitpicky, there was no edit style to remove his mask. I'm assuming they couldn't get the frontman's actor Lee Byung-hun's consent to use his likeness for the skin, which is fair, but if you've seen the show, then you know that Lee Byung-hun is fucking cool and completes the frontman as a character. So it does kind of feel like there's a bit of a loss that he's not there, even though I completely understand and I assume Epic Games did the most they could. I know I've been quite critical of this collaboration, but at the end of the day, I am genuinely happy that it exists. It's just when I'm looking back at it, I can't help but see wasted potential. Like, you can always add to a collab, but you can never introduce it again. Like, why did they not release the frontman with the initial collaboration? Did we really need almost 10 identical fucking skins? Were people that desperate for the tug-of-war titan? I don't fully blame Epic, you know what I mean? It seems like Netflix has a habit of rushing them when it comes to collabs. So I do hope they continue to update the collab, maybe with better emotes or a new skin with a different actor's likeness. Even though the hype is definitely gone now. Oh yeah, last little thing before I move on. Since the collaboration, Fortnite have allowed Squid Game creative maps to return, so I'd like to recommend Ink Games. Yes, I know they stole the name. I initially was actually going to cover it for this video, but I'd just be repeating myself from the Roblox section since they're quite similar. So if you want to know what it's like, go check it out. The creative code's at the top of the screen. It's really fun with some friends, and it's good for XP too if you're not enjoying the season we're currently on. Now on to the final game of the video, Squid Game Unleashed.
I don't know what that is.
Announced at the 2024 Game Awards alongside titles like The Witcher 4, Dispatch, and another remaster of The Last of Us. This game has 2 entries and like 8 releases. What the fuck? What is this? Oh, anyway, sorry, that was off topic, I'm sorry. I know the Game Awards has a lot of filler titles, you know what I mean? Just so Jeff Keighley can get on stage and say the words World Premiere. But this announcement felt especially out of place, and I feel like Netflix had a bit too much confidence with this reveal. Having the now iconic guards fill the stage as they show off the game's trailer, where the frontman himself promised us the iconic highs and lows of the Squid Games would be available to experience digitally regardless of Netflix subscription. All you had to do was head to the App Store. Yeah, that's definitely fucking why no one's heard of this game. I don't play a lot of mobile games, so I might just be completely wrong on this, but why would you release a game that is essentially just a Fall Guys ripoff to the App Store? Like, to do precise movements on a phone of all things seems like a massive folly. Why not release your competitive platformer on, I don't know, something with a joystick or buttons? Even a Steam release would have been better. I would have rather used WASD to win the Squid Games than just drag my greasy finger across the screen. But, I don't know, maybe they wanted that Gen Alpha player base to flood the servers. I'm not too sure. Seems like quite a dumb decision. Anyway, moving on. Starting Squid Game Unleashed for the first time, you'll be immediately asked if you have a Netflix subscription. I said no, because I cannot be asked signing in. I don't think the benefits will be that high. Afterwards, you'll be immediately put into the game's tutorial, which confirms to me that this is just Fall Guys, which is inherently not a bad thing, but it's definitely not a good thing. Like, how has a Roblox developer done a better job at adapting an IP than the company that owns it? Anyway, once you've beat the tutorial, you'll be put into your first proper match of Squid Game Unleashed. Each match of Squid Game Unleashed is split up into 3 separate rounds, which I'll give the developers some credit is a really good idea, and it makes the matches feel somewhat fast-paced and really adds to that pick up and play type of feel. But regarding the games that take place within these matches, on the other hand, they're all kind of the same. I'd go over every one of them in detail just like I did with Ink Game, but I'd just be repeating myself. They all boil down into 3 categories. The first one being a race, where you have to compete against 31 other players by reaching the finish line before anyone else does, as only 16 people can pass the first round. During the race, there'll be map-specific traps that can kill you, which sounds like it'll add a lot of tension to the round. But no. They're just a bit annoying, as everyone has infinite lives, so the most dying does is just set you back a few seconds. Moving on to the second type of game, the platform challenges, which are the most Fall Guys to ever Fall Guys. One of them is literally Hexafall from Fall Guys.
Welcome back
to Slop Live. Today's topic is actually pretty disgusting.
These games are obviously the most derogatory of the game they're copying, and they're also nowhere near as good, as the movement in this game, especially when you're in the air, is quite floaty, but somehow so stiff. Like, you'll have a lot of airtime, but you'll just have nothing to do with it. Also, in these platform games, you just race into the finish line again, till the player count is cut in half. Not really much to say about these ones. They're not boring, they're not bad, but they're not at all like Squid Game. Even the one that is literally just glass bridge is more about holding forward than making the right decision. Yeah, it's just kind of lame. The final type of game are the death matches, where you and the 7 other remaining players will compete till there is one left standing. These games will always be the final game, and these are the only ones where you can actually die and stay dead. Games in this category include the titular Squid Game, where you have to knock players out of the squid-shaped ring with baseball bats, which I'll get to in a minute. Then there's the Hexafall ripoff, and there's a few others. I have nothing really of note to say about them. They offer the most unique gameplay experience, adding some variation from running and jumping, but again, just quite flat and mediocre. But you know what, at least they add some kind of competitive element to the matches, as you are finally able to fuck over the competition. As in the first 2 rounds, you can pick up items and like annoy the competition, but it never feels like you're against them. It more feels like you're against the map and they just happen to be there, acting as more of a timer for how long you can take to get to the end. Yeah, that's honestly all I have to say about like 80% of Squid Game Unleashed. Now I want to go back a bit and look at the other 20% of the game, that being the drip. While you've been watching this elite gameplay on screen, you might have noticed that my character has changed quite a few times. This is because Squid Game Unleashed has 26 playable characters, who include iconic characters from the show like Daesu, Se-byuk, and Spud. Yeah, only about a third of the game's characters are actually from the show, the rest are just Squid Game Unleashed OCs. It's still really cool though that they were able to include these characters, especially with them all having their own unique cosmetics, skills, and starting items. I initially had a whole section of the script written about these in-game items, but it just felt like a waste to talk about them, as I'd either end up lying by gassing them up, or end up being boring by describing them, but then adding at the very end that they're not really that useful outside of games where they're mandatory to win, like in the Squid Game. Outside of games like that, you won't really find much use for them, as they all either give you a little speed boost, or slow down an opponent. Which sounds helpful, but the way you obtain these items is what really limits the capacity, as you can either obtain one at the very start through whatever character you've chosen, or through Mario Kart style present boxes, gifting you a random item each time you run into one. But the issue is that these boxes are always placed around the end of a map, so you never really have enough time to get any value out of the item that you are given. In the admittedly few hours I did put into this game for this video, I don't think an item really ever helped me secure a victory, not even once. So yeah, a pretty half-baked mechanic, I can't lie, and that's how I describe the game overall, as half-baked. In some areas, I do see good ideas and concepts, like with the fast-paced 3-round matches and the art style, for as basic as it is, thanks to its heavy reliance on distinct shapes and colours, you can easily understand everything that's happening on screen, even if that screen happens to be on a phone. But the actual game itself is just a bit flat. Like, it's not awful. I'm not gonna screech through the halls of E3 saying how the game is literally just a reskin of an already popular game. I'm probably just gonna forget about it, like a lot of people already have. Which is honestly worse than making something that's 1 out of 10 shit like Anthem, a game that people still talk about 7 years later. While Squid Game Unleashed has been out for around a year at the time of recording, and I am confident that this is the first time it's been mentioned in a YouTube video. I honestly feel bad for shitting on the game so much, as at the time of recording, the game's developer, Boss Fight Entertainment, was actually shut down by Netflix. Which fucking sucks. It's becoming way too common in this industry to just fire everyone if a game in an extremely competitive market doesn't explode with popularity. Clearly, skilled people did work at this company, and I hope they're able to continue working within the industry and hopefully pull an Expedition 33. Because fuck these CEOs, fuck these companies who don't understand the industry punishing the people who do. Also, I'll just slip this in here, extra point to the game, because Squid Game Unleashed actually has 0 microtransactions. I had my pitchfork ready, but no. All characters, cosmetics, and emotes can only be earned through the in-game currency, and you can only earn this currency from winning matches. Incredible. So to answer the question that no one asked, I'd say the best and most authentic Squid Game experience comes from Ink Games on Roblox. Then, in the middle, is Squid Game Unleashed, lying in its own mediocrity, with Fortnite's Squid Ground sitting comfortably in last place. So now that another one of life's great big questions have been answered, and before I play the awkward ramblings that are my outros, I want to ask one last question. Should Squid Game even have a video game? Is it right that this amazing 10 out of 10 series that takes its time painfully exposing every ugly fold of our capitalist society has now become this commercialized slop that simply exists to benefit the thing that it's critiquing? And this is where I want to talk a little bit more about the show, and a lot more about the creator of the Squid Game himself, Hwan Dong-hyuk. Born in the year 1971 and later graduating from the University of Southern California with a degree in film production, Hwan would find himself in a constant state of financial struggle. It was this ever-present financial struggle and his love for Japanese manga series like Battle Royale and Liar's Game that would birth the concept of Squid Game. And here, I'm fairly certain we all know the story, that it then took this guy 10 years of writing, meetings, and whatever he was doing to try get this show picked up by any studio. Which is insane, considering the fact that it's one of the most popular shows on Netflix, brought thousands upon thousands of eyes from around the world to Korean dramas, and is considered by many to be a modern masterpiece. So why did so many people say no? Simply put, at the time, apparently studios thought the idea of people participating in life or death games for money sounded too unrealistic, so audiences would struggle to get invested. But as the times changed, so unfortunately did the economy. And as a result of this, poverty porn content like MrBeast's began to thrive as the world got hooked seeing everyone's rags to riches story, all the while secretly wishing it was them who was given this golden opportunity to win a life-changing amount of money. And not only were the channels like MrBeast aware of this, so were some executives at Netflix. Cut to 2019, and the story that Hwan Dong-hyuk has spent a fifth of his life developing has been greenlit. So in a weird way, the show that is cited every single time someone criticises MrBeast or his brand would not really exist without him, which is really funny. And gets funnier like every year, as I swear the richer MrBeast becomes, the more dystopian his videos get, as he ever inches closer to that Squid Game status. Like John Fensitter over here, I don't think he's a horrible person. He's worked very hard to get where he's at. He's literally cured blindness and put wells up in Africa. No one can take that away from him, you know what I'm saying? But he has definitely made a decision or two that is, without a doubt, forced. Anyway, now let's move on to the post-Squid Game era. It's now been 17 years since Hwan's first draft of the show, and it now has 3 whole seasons, spin-off/American remake, a reality TV series, multiple video game promotions, t-shirts, a cereal for some reason, and much, much, much more. In not even half the time it took for Hwan to make the show, Netflix and equally the consumer have made his very personal story into slop. This fact, this critique, is also a strange reason why I love Squid Game so much. As I imagine, just like me, when you find a piece of media that you enjoy so much, you usually indulge in it, you know? You buy a mug or a burger or a Fortnite skin or whatever, you know what I mean? You just buy stuff and you think nothing of it. But when you do this with Squid Game, you are distilling it. You are ruining it. And I don't think there's another piece of media like Squid Game that holds a mirror up to you like that, simultaneously shaming you and reminding you that we are stuck in a capitalist society. And here's your proof in vinyl.
Squid Game in general is seen as a cautionary tale for the dark side of capitalism, and yet then it's inspired other shows like the internet star MrBeast created his own Squid Game show where he gave over $1 million to contestants. As the creator of Squid Game, I was wondering what you think of these shows that are inspired by Squid Game.
To be honest, I haven't watched those kind of shows yet. So I have no idea what is going on the show. 사실 뭐 얘기는 많이 들었는데 뭐 미스터 비스트가 만든 쇼도 있고 뭐 넷플릭스에서 그 리얼리티 쇼로 만들었던 스퀴드 게임 쇼도 있고, 네. 거기에서는 사실 이제 이런 그 이 사회에 대한 풍자 이런 부분들은 사실은 이제 좀 탈락되어 있는 거잖아요. 그래서 어떻게 보면 그냥 누구도 죽지 않는, 누구도 이 게임에서 패배한다고 치명적인 결과를 입지는 않는 그냥 순수한 돈을 위한 경쟁 뭐 이런 쇼가 이제 된 건데, 사실 그걸 가지고 비판을 하시는 분이 있는 것도 많이 들었어요. 왜냐하면 어떤 이 스퀴드 게임이 갖고 있는 스피릿 이런 것들을 탈색시킨 채로 너무 볼거리만 만드는 것이 아니냐라는 얘기도 많이 들었는데, 글쎄요, 뭐 그것이 뭐 어떻게 생각하면은 저는 그냥 지금 자본주의의 모습인 것 같아요. 모든 것들이 팔릴 수 있는 상품이 되고, 뭐 하나의 거대한 히트 상품이 나오면 거기서 또 다른 파생되는 다른 많은 상품들이 나오고, 그래서 뭔가 약간 수익 창출의 기회를 늘리고 하는 것들이 지금 자본주의의 어떤 기본 시스템이자 원리이기 때문에 뭐 좀 씁쓸한 감이 없지는 않습니다만, 뭐 그거 자체를 우리가 부정하거나 뭐 너무 안 좋은 방향으로 볼 것까지는 없다라고 생각을 해요. 그것이 우리가 살고 있는 지금 자본주의 세상이기 때문에.
So that's every thought and feeling I think I have on one of my favorite shows ever made. I hope this video didn't sound like condescending or a bit like fuck you for enjoying something. I hope I didn't come off that way. I don't mean to be like that at all. Like I've shown, I'm a consumer too. I've bought products relating to this show like a lot of other people have, so I hope I haven't come across as like a hypocrite or anything. I should say too that I don't consider Ink Games to be derogatory of the show. It's clearly just a fan project that had a lot of effort and passion put into it, and I wouldn't want to diminish or invalidate any of that effort that Games I think put into it. If anything, this video was more derogatory of Squid Game. On the subject of capitalism, by the way, please consider liking the video and subscribing. The UK job market is more fucked than my hairline, so it would be greatly appreciated if you could support the channel. Till the next one, have a good day. I hope you enjoyed, and bye.